Hi, I'm Aya Katz, and today I want to talk to you about how much to charge for your art. And that is a very controversial issue because some people think that artists should not be paid for their time, and other people think that the value of a painting is immeasurable and therefore nothing but infinity would be enough to pay for it. So the answer has to be somewhere in the middle. Before we get into it, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe and press the bell icon for notifications. But there's one caveat. If you're already subscribed, if you press that subscribe thing, that will unsubscribe you, so don't do that. Okay. All right. So when I was growing up and we had to call in plumbers and other kind of workers to help fix things, and they charged by the hour, and they charged a lot by the hour. Certain people in my household said they shouldn't be charging by the hour because that means that those of them who are doing a bad job and are taking too much time are actually making more money. What do you think about that? Well, uh, it can happen. It certainly can happen that somebody is having a bad day or is less experienced than somebody else. And if they have the same hourly rate on their bad day as on their good day, that's not fair to the client. And if they're incompetent, then they will never learn to become more competent because being paid by the hour actually encourages them to take longer than they have to do something. So when I started my law practice and I got my JD and I passed the bar and I started my law practice, I decided that I wasn't going to use billable hours like all the other attorneys. I was going to charge by the document. So $100 for a will, $500 for a contested divorce, with an additional $75 for each additional document after the petition. I worked very hard, even on my bad days, and I had a lot of very poor clients who came to me and were very satisfied with the way I did their divorce, and they liked it so much they wanted me to do their second divorce and their third divorce. But somehow or other, I did not find that fulfilling. I'm also an ape language researcher, and I'm doing that on my own. And a lot of the things that I do on spec, which means nobody pays me an hourly rate or any other kind of rate to do the things I do. I do them because I love to do them. And I do love to paint. But I'll tell you what, I don't want to be disrespected, and I don't want my time to be, considered unvaluable to other people. And if I'm going to, paint for somebody else and it's not on spec and it's what they want me to paint rather than what I choose to paint, then I will charge them a fee. And now I'm going to tell you how I determine that fee. So I start out very objectively with a number, and that number is square inches. And most of my canvases are either squares or rectangles. So the way you get to the square inches is you multiply one side by the other. And I charge $1 per square inch. But that's not all, okay? Because, I mean, if I were just a person painting a wall, that might be all, okay? But since I'm also creating what is basically a drawing using paint, which is a representation, and I always paint portraits. I don't really paint landscapes. So I also charge by the person. If there's only one person in the painting, I add $20 to the square inches. In other words, however much I charged for square inches, I add $20 per person on that. So let's talk, let me show you what I mean by that. That sounds really abstract. So we have this very small painting, and you can measure it. You can use your iPhone or your other cell phone to measure this, or you could take a tape measure and measure it. I measured this painting and it's 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. It's a square. And so that, if we multiply 2.5 by 2.5, we get 6.25, 6.25. So that would be $6.25. And you might say, well, that's not a lot for your time to draw something, to paint something that intricate. But then I add another $20 because I went to the trouble of painting a person on here. So together, this would cost $26.25. And that seems reasonable. If somebody wants me to paint themselves or some other person that they like on a square this small, that's how much I would charge them to do that. Of course, I did this one on spec because that's what I wanted to do. Okay, here's another example. This painting is 8 by 10, so that's easy. 8 times 10 is 80, but notice we have 2 people here, right? 2. So instead of adding just $20 to the 80, I will add $40 and we get $120 for a painting this size with 2 people in it. All right, and then over here I have a 9 by 12, and this is also a 9 by 12. It doesn't matter whether it's landscape or portrait. These are both portraits, but you know what I mean. So 9 by 12, so it's 9 times 12 is 108, and then there's another person in, just one person in it. So it's 128 for a painting of this size. Okay, and then this one here behind me is 16 by 20, and it's got 3 people in it. And you know what? Even counting the people I use the phone for, because I want to know if I've actually represented 3 people on here. I'm not just going to splotch something in and call it a person. So I use my phone to check that I really have 3 people in the painting. And then 16 times 20 is 320. And then because we have 3 people here, that's an extra $60. And so that would be $380 for a painting like this size, with 3 people in it. So that basically shows you how you can calculate a price for any painting of people, basically a portrait of any size. If the size is really small, then most of the work that goes into it is just trying to paint the person. If the size is large, actually painting the person is easier because the bigger it is, the more resolution it has. So it's easier to make a person that you can tell is a person. But the materials cost more and it takes longer to spread the paint on and things of that sort. So this is the way we balance size versus difficulty. And I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But what if somebody comes up to you and says, you know what? I don't think that's a good price for this painting, or I don't think that I can afford that. Well, that's whatever the market can bear. In other words, maybe your painting isn't what that person wants. Maybe they have other choices, and that's okay. They don't have to buy your painting at your price. But I don't haggle about the price, and I don't ask them, oh, what do you think it's worth? Because they can't tell what it's worth to me. And what matters to me is it worth it to me? So, in determining what somebody will pay for a product, there are three things to consider: value, cost, and what the market will bear. Okay? Uh, so, if they're willing to pay for it, great. And if not, they're not the customer for you.